For you here on the water cooler.
I always say true and false.
I do well on true and false.
Hey,
we're going to throw to Studio
C.
C. They're going to take it away.
Thanks, guys. I'm here, Lauren Jones, here with Chris Hogesang, and today we're going to have a classic game of true or false. Now, true or false? The Rockets are a bona fide championship contender. What do you think?
Gotta go with false here, and it comes down to experience. The 5 starters you got, the 2 guys who have really gone deep in the playoffs, Dwight Howard and James Harden, they really flopped in the finals. We all know James disappeared. I don't see it happening in their first year together.
Okay. Secondly, there's been a lot of buzz on Durant and this LeBron. So LeBron versus Durant has been a headline all season long. So what do you think? Durant holds off LeBron for MVP?
After that game last night, I'm going with false. I think this is LeBron's. He's coming for it, and he wants it. Shades of 2012 finals. Are the Thunder finally passing the Heat? No. When the lights turn on, the tough gets going. And in a pressure cooker, I'm going with LeBron over KD.
Now, I know this question is really close to your heart. As a Portland Trail Blazers fan, do you think the Blazers are a top 3 team in the West?
The Portland Trail Blazers, my Portland Trail Blazers. They've lost 7 out of the last 10. Aldridge is out for a week. Batum has a mysterious, unknown injury that he may or may not play against the Jazz tonight, but it doesn't matter. We're the biggest story in the NBA this year for a reason.
He brought out the jersey.
I got the jersey. I'm a homer. I'm putting it on.
Putting on the jersey.
Because the Blazers are the number 1 offense in the NBA. They're number 1 in rebounding. And even though Aldridge is going to be out for a week, that doesn't matter. Come March, he's going to get his rest, pick up the minutes then. We're going to get an uptick in the minutes for young bigs like Thomas Robinson. Maybe everybody plays a little bit more defense, playing inspired for this crowd and for Aldridge being out. This is the year they're fixing it.
Now, I don't know if I'm buying in, but we have to check out the jersey. Let's give him a 360.
There it is.
And then, okay, last one. Now, you know the Knicks. There's been inconsistency, and they've gone on streaks. What do you think? The Knicks will make the postseason, true or false?
False. The Knicks are not making the postseason because, I don't know, I think we've seen for years now, Carmelo Anthony isolation basketball does not win games, and nothing's been working the whole year. It's been a mess from start to finish, and the most desperate team, desperate to win, didn't make any moves at the trade deadline, so it's not happening in New York.
Thanks, guys. After the break, we'll have more of the water cooler, so stay tuned.
Bought a place.
For almost 2/3 season mark. Take a look.
Thanks, guys. I'm Lauren Jones, here with Chris Hogesang, and today, in the midst of midterm season, we're going to be giving out some grades of our own. So, what grade would you give LeBron offering mentorship to Paul George?
With LeBron, I gotta go unsatisfactory, and that's because the Heat and the Pacers have been preparing to play each other in the finals for months now. Pacers are making moves to get ready for the Heat. Heat are starting to play big to get ready for the Pacers. So LeBron, you're gonna be in this rivalry for the next 5 to 10 years. Why would you go help your biggest rival in the offseason? I mean, Lance called his shot against the Heat. Hibbert called his shot against the Heat. The Pacers are coming for you, and so now you can't give him help anymore. I mean, LeBron used to help KD in the offseason, but they had to call that off after they started playing the finals. They didn't want to give each other their secrets. The Heat and the Pacers are too good to be working together.
You know, I agree with you, but I also think, he kind of has a responsibility as the face of this league to, mentor, the younger players. So I'm going to say it's a satisfactory idea.
That's true. That's true. It is his responsibility to pass down those little tips and tricks to other players. I just worry about it with his biggest rival.
I understand that. Well, we're going to move on to a lighter story. It's kind of funny, I hear that the Milwaukee Bucks rookie, Giannis Antetokounmpo, ran from the Western Union in Milwaukee to the Bucks Arena. Can you give us a little backstory about that?
Absolutely. Giannis Antetokounmpo is my newest favorite player in the NBA, and that's because he was trying to help out his family. He was going over the bank to send most of his check back to his family in Greece to help them out. But he actually gave so much money that he didn't have enough for the cab fare home. So naturally, Giannis put on his big fur coat that he had on at the bank and just started jogging to the arena. He didn't know what else to do. And about a mile down the road, some local fans said, "Hey, aren't you the new big rookie?"
Right.
And he hopped in the back seat and they took him to the arena. Absolutely exemplary. I mean, this just is more that goes to show that Giannis Antetokounmpo is the new nice guy face of the league. I mean, you got to look at that smile. He's adorable. Absolutely exemplary. Absolutely exemplary. Giannis, never change, big guy.
I'm going to have to agree with you on this and go with exemplary as well. This is a really heartwarming story, and it's also pretty funny. So our last one is Mark Cuban. Now, he has proposed that NCAA stars, you know, the Jabari Parkers and the Andrew Wiggins, that they go straight to the D-League out of high school. What do you think? What grade would you give that?
This is a big topic of discussion. It needs improvement because it's very complicated. I think it's a good idea to allow these high schoolers to go straight to the NBA at some level because there's not many professions in the United States, you know, we believe in that American dream, where you're denied the opportunity to work for pay coming straight out of high school. I think it works, the college system works a little better and is more necessary for the NFL. Guys just really aren't ready right out of high school, but LeBron was born ready. So there's a lot of guys that should be trying to make money of some sort coming out of college. And so I do think the NBA D-League could be an option. The NBA really needs to beef it up a little bit. Mark Cuban needs to open up his pockets a little bit to make it a safer, better situation for college kids coming out because you don't want Jabari Parker at 18 years old playing against some 25-year-old scrub who's not going anywhere. That could be a dangerous situation for everybody, so it needs improvement.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you on that, and unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed our report card, and we're going to send it back to you guys in the studio.
Welcome back. Thank you so much, Chris.
We're going to send it over to Lauren, Chris, and Connor talking about March Madness Final Four and who they got winning the championship, for goodness sakes.
Thanks, guys. I'm Lauren Jones here with Chris Hogesing and Connor McGlynn, and today we're going to be talking all Final Four predictions. So let's get it started. Connor, who do you think is going to be, who was more surprising for you, Kentucky or UConn thus far? Who's been more surprising?
Well, tougher road to here so far. You have to go with Kentucky. They had to play the highest seeds at possible to be able to get to the Final Four. More surprising, though, we got the UConn Huskies. I mean, I had them losing personally in the first round to St. Joe's, and they took them to overtime. It was the closest game they had. They got really fortunate playing the second round against a Villanova team who didn't deserve a number 2 seed, and then injuries to Iowa State. So I was shocked when they made it to the Final Four, but it just goes to show free throws, free throws, free throws. People say that defense wins championships, free throws win tournament games. They've missed 11 free throws in 4 games in the tournament. That's 81 free points right there.
Absolutely. UConn's busted my bracket as well, but you got to go with Kentucky's path. I mean, the #1 team in the country, their most hated rival, and then that really tough Michigan team to get to the Final Four. That's just so much in 3 games. These kids have really grown up in front of our eyes.
Well, Chris, we're really happy to have you back, and we just want to know, Connor, who's the first round? Who's getting to the next round of these teams?
So I think we got to look at this matchup first here. We got the Gators, we got Huskies. UConn's been able to get to this point, like I said, free throws, but also transition points, taking care of the ball. However, Florida's press, 40 minutes, they're going to be able to take away both of those aspects, I guess all 3 of those aspects, and I'm looking at the Gators move on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this Final Four all comes down to coaches. Coaches play such a huge role in college basketball, and as great of a season as Kevin Ollie's had this year, he's shown you can't check a box with a new head coach, no college experience, no NBA experience. It doesn't matter. He's just a good coach. But Billy Donovan, he's been here before, and he's going to certainly move on to the final with his talented Gators team.
Okay, so we're in agreement here. And then between Kentucky and Wisconsin, who has it?
I'm got to go with Kentucky here, and that's going to come down to Kentucky's the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country, while Wisconsin's 12th in defensive rebounding. Kentucky gets fouled more than any other team in the country. Wisconsin fouls the second least in the country. So I got to throw the numbers out of the window. I got to go with Calipari to move on to the championship in Bo Ryan's first Final Four because he's so good at changing his story. He takes a team that he's been blaming the players all year, and he says, it doesn't matter. This isn't the same team anymore. We made a tweak, his self-proclaimed tweak, and suddenly they're dynamite from 3. So I got to go with the hot team with the hot coach.
Okay, is Connor in agreement?
No, you mentioned rebounding. You're right. Kentucky's been out rebounding the opponents. Their plus 40 on the tournament. However, they got to deal with the big trees of Wisconsin. They got Frank Kaminsky. They got Sam Decker down in the paint. They're going to be able to hold them off. And you mentioned how the team's grown, but they're freshmen. You can't grow up that much over a season. And I'm looking at the Badgers. Bo Ryan, you talked about him, first Final Four, but he's going to keep it going. He has the D3 national championship experience, and he's going to translate it over to D1.
Okay, so we have some momentum growing now. We need to know who's taking it all.
Well, like you said, Kentucky, they're all freshmen. First Final Four team starting all freshmen since 1992. And what happened with the Fab Five? They went down in the final because Gator Chomp. Why is it so hard to beat a team 4 times in a row? Like, why do people say that? People say that it's so hard to beat a team a bunch of times. No, they're just a better team. Champion.
Okay.
We got Gators. No way. No way. We got the Badgers, where they played them earlier in the year, although it's a different Florida team. Scotty Wilbekin's back. I got to look at Wisconsin, bringing it home, ranked top 5 in offensive efficiency. They're going to bring it back to Madison, bring everyone a ring, and Bo Ryan's going to be wearing that trophy.
So we'll see who wins it all, but that's all the time we have for today. We're going to toss it back to you guys in the studio. Thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. Looks like a split decision coming up in the national championship. But guys,
What an awesome promo, Chris. I'm Lauren Jones here with Chris Hogesing, and today it is the NBA playoffs. We're going to be talking all NBA right now. So, Chris, what's been the biggest surprise thus far?
I got to go with the Memphis Grizzlies here. You know, the Washington Wizards have been very surprising. Just LaMarcus Aldridge by himself has been surprising. But I'd have to go with the Grizzlies because, shame on me, I looked past them. I really thought this was the year the Thunder were going to put it back together, make a run back to the finals. Westbrook might change his game a little bit. But no, the Grizzlies have really stepped up in these playoffs. I mean, not only have they gone up 2-1 in this series, but they've had some back-breaking fourth quarters so far in Game 1 and Game 2 and Game 3, where the Thunder really gave them, they came back. The Grizzlies were up 17 in Game 2 before, in both of these games, they give up unbelievable 4-point plays to go to overtime. A lot of teams would crumble under that pressure, but the Grizzlies have really risen above it, and they really might win this series.
Wow, okay. I was thinking the Washington Wizards, but I guess
they deserve some love as well, definitely. You would never expect Nene to have this kind of impact so far in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Bradley Beal and John Wall, I mean, they're really killing it. So who's the most likely to sweep? You know, we have the Washington Wizards, Portland Trailblazers, and then we have the Miami Heat.
You know, I'd love to go with my Blazers here. I definitely think they could do it, and I think the Wizards maybe could do it as well. I like both of those teams to finish up those series pretty soon, but I got to go with the Heat with Big Al and a big old boot on his leg. You know, they're fighting really hard. They've been really tough. McBob has been playing hard, giving cold-blooded elbows to LeBron. They've really played tough, but I think with their leader hurt, you know, you see him walking to the locker room, I got to expect the Heat to wrap that one up.
And then who is the player that needs to step it up the most? Because there's been a couple of disappointments.
Well, looking at who needs to step it up, so far in the playoffs, there have been 2 players that have had at least 19 shots and shot below 33%.
Yeah.
That's James Harden in Game 1 and James Harden Game 2. He needs to take this to another level. We've sort of elevated him in the NBA this year as to the #1 shooting guard, maybe with guys like Kobe hurt. We want to bring him up on that pedestal, but he's really come down in these playoffs. I mean, what's he doing? He's arguing with reporters after games, calling them weirdos. You've got montages of how bad his defense is. He needs to step it up all the way around and try to make something happen in Game 3, or him and the rest of the Rockets are going to be toast.
Now, who was the bigger concern, the Pacers or OKC?
Now, I definitely think OKC is in trouble here. I definitely see that one going 7. But I got to go with the Pacers on this one because they might lose the next 2 games. I mean, you've got they're just crumbling on the road at home. I got to go with the Pacers because I'm not sure if they're good enough to really win another game in this series. The Atlanta Hawks have been just shooting threes, and we haven't seen the Pacers really adjust that well.
I mean, they're the #1 seed, and they're kind of getting embarrassed at this point. Frank Vogel's job is in jeopardy, apparently.
You got to think his job's on the line on this one. He already said he's coaching for his job. He tried to say everybody's coaching for their jobs,
Right.
but I think he's under a lot of pressure. I think the Pacers, after starting off as the NBA lovebirds, have really fallen under hard times once the pressure is really heated up on them. I expect the Hawks to advance. They look like the better playoff team.
Yeah, and there's all that trouble in the locker room as well with Lance Stevenson getting into a fights. I don't know. But I need to know who, even though I kind of have an idea, who's your MVP for the first round?
You know, I really looked around to other options. I didn't want to be biased on this one, but it's got to be my boy LaMarcus.
I gotta agree
He's
on
got
that one.
89 in 2 games in the playoffs so far. No one's done that. First 2 games of a series on the road since Jordan and Tracy McGrady, 2 of the best scorers. I mean, look at those highlights. It's unbelievable. He's bringing back the mid-range game. Oh, it's so beautiful. You love to see that, especially when it's your favorite player on your favorite team. But he's quite obviously the MVP so far. LMA for MVP.
I think you mentioned that he was your man crush Monday?
Oh, certainly my man crush Monday. Hopefully my man crush Friday tonight.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we're going to toss it back to you guys in the studio for final memos.
Chris, Lauren, thank you. So now from above the rim to between the whistles here.
Even if it's jazz or the quiet storm, I hook a beat up, converted into hip-hop form.
Alongside Chris Hogesang and Daria Nurian, I'm Lauren Jones. The NBA playoffs have been nothing short of amazing. So today we're going to be talking about them. Yes? First round.
Dude, these have been such an amazing playoffs. I mean, despite the
Not even such, the best. The best. There's no
Best in
comparison.
years. Best in years.
That, you know, this was the best first round of playoffs that he's ever seen. So clearly,
It's
he's
a fact. They
making
are the
quite an
best.
impression.
Historically, there's no better season.
I mean, when a quarter of the games go to overtime.
Yeah,
You can't ask for anything
exactly.
more as a fan.
Exactly. Yeah, four straight overtime games with the Grizzlies.
Right.
It just snapped, but.
So what do you think has made it so competitive?
Well, I think it's kind of a simple answer. There's no other way to explain it. The numbers don't make any sense. The road teams are winning all the games, and at the end of the day, I think we just made a lot of assumptions about some of these teams. We didn't think the Wizards could do anything. We decided the Raptors were too young. When a lot of these teams, we really didn't know what they were made of until they actually got to the playoffs.
We really underestimated, the power of a lot of these teams. The Memphis Grizzlies absolutely do not look like a #7 seed. We see the Atlanta Hawks. They're about to take down the Indiana Pacers the other night before they came back in that fourth quarter and they won. But really, it all comes down to coaching adjustments. Yeah. We haven't seen a lot of consistency in these playoffs from these teams. We see teams blow out. We saw the Clippers and the Warriors. Saw them blow out the Warriors by 40 points, then come back and win a game. So really, it comes down to coaches making adjustments game by game, and that's what separates the best coaches from the others in these playoffs.
Definitely. So, Mr. Unreliable. I don't know if you guys heard, but Washington local newspaper wrote that Kevin Durant is Mr. Unreliable. So we wanted to get a video of his reaction to that. He kind of didn't know, so we're going to cue the video.
I don't really care, Coming from my paper back at home, that's what they're supposed to write. I didn't come through for the team, so they got to write that type of stuff. And as a player, as a as a competitor, it's going to be good and bad days. People are going to build you up, they're going to break you down. But it's all about how you stay even keeled, and I think that's what I am. And my teammates love me, my family love me, so that's all that really matters to me. And it is what it is. We got another.
So after last night's performance, can we still say that he's Mr. Unreliable?
How can we say that? More like Mr. MVP. We saw him come out, make 5 of his first 7 shots, go off for 36 and 10 in a must-win game for the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a guy who's been self-motivated all season long. He doesn't need a newspaper to tell him that he's unreliable or whatnot like that.
Yeah, but when Mr. Unreliable is also referring to himself as Mr. Decoy, we start to get a little sketchy. His record in elimination games is only 1-4 compared to LeBron at 7-6, MJ at 6-7.
He won last night, didn't he?
When you don't know what you're going to get in an elimination game, you call him Mr. Unreliable, and we'll see what comes out in Game 7.
You can call Kevin Durant all he wants. He's soon to be MVP, and I think the Thunder
It could look a little
foolish
foolish, like a Dirk Nowitzki MVP, if the MVP goes out in the first round.
Doesn't look like that's going to happen, though.
All right. So which Game 6 matchup ends tonight?
For me, it's got to be that Spurs-Mavs series. I think the Spurs take care of business tonight, and I think if Greg Popovich is the coach that I think he is, they will take care of business. Looking back to 2006, that was the first time the Mavs went to the finals that year. They won that game 6, forced it to 7 games. So I think that the Spurs want to take care of business tonight. We saw in game 5, Carter had a great game. Nowitzki had his best game of the series, no doubt. They still lost. And in game 4, Vince Carter bailed them out at the last second. I think the Spurs come out, they keep pounding the paint. You see the Mavs not giving them much in the perimeter. 49 points in the paint this series is what they're averaging. They pounded it with Splitter and Duncan, and they take care of business tonight.
And I'll just go with the Blazers because I'm a bona fide homer, and that's that.
All right, so
Go Blazers.
which Game 7 of the 3 teams that we already know, which Game 7 matchup are you most looking forward to or intrigued by?
I'd have to go with Warriors-Clippers. People were saying, Mark Jackson's done. It started off really rough, actually, for the Warriors, going down 14-5. And Mark Jackson called the timeout. Like you mentioned, adjustments. They made that adjustment. They made an adjustment to somehow turn Draymond Green into an MVP player by the end of the game. So I think it'll be really intriguing to see what happens.
I'm
going
to have to agree with Chris on this one. This has been the most exciting for me. All series long, all the developments that came out, Donald Sterling, seeing how the Clippers came out and reacted in Game 5, in front of that home crowd, and then seeing Mark make those adjustments in Game 6. I really don't know what we're going to get here in Game 7. A lot of things up in the air. We don't know if Jermaine O'Neal is going to play. We saw him play a huge offensive role in Game 5. But like I have to call him, instant offense coming off the bench. But at the end of the day, Steph Curry's got to be aggressive. Chris Paul's been all over him. They've been switching those screens, really putting a lot of pressure on him. He's got to come out and be the player that we all know he can be.
So now, which coach needs to make it to the next round the most?
I'm going with Mark Jackson because of his relationship with the guys upstairs. They've had a disconnect all year. You have him demoting Brian Scalabrine, one of his assistant coaches, and that's not a good sign when there's a disconnect there. And I think that they would like to find their own new guy to try to run this team if they can't get out of the first round like they did last year.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with Chris. Mark Jackson, absolutely. He's been on the hot seat ever since the end of the season when we're struggling to even make the playoffs. But for me, it absolutely has to be Frank Vogel. This is a team that battled all season long to capture that #1 seed. They beat the Heat out at the end of the year. And then they come out, and they're really troubled by this Atlanta Hawks team. Jeff Teague has given them so much trouble. Vogel's had trouble making those adjustments. We're seeing Roy Hibbert really just go off the map. He used to be one of the league's best defensive players. And at the end of the day, for me, that's a coaching thing.
Scotty, you better figure out how to use those 2 top 10 players, too. Don't think we're not looking at you.
Okay, you better take that advice. Well, after the break, we're going to have an NFL draft preview, so stay tuned.
Review with Marquise Lee to show you now, so check that out.
Number 9, number 9, number 9.
And that's Marquise Lee with the reception. Marquise Lee down the sideline. Touchdown SC on the first play of the game.
This is Lauren Jones from the Water Cooler. I'm here with Marquise Lee, draft prospect. Now, Marquise, can you kind of tell me what the process has been like up to this point?
Process for the draft been okay. Pretty busy for the most part. For a combine go, got a lot of medical within that aspect of the game, and just as far as now, all this traveling and all. Oh my God! Overall, the combine experience was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm still going through it. I actually got trips next week that I plan on going to. Start Monday on a Friday, I believe, and that's really about it.
How is it being back at Sarah? This is kind of your mecca, your playground where it all started. So how is it being back here?
I feel great to actually be back with the players I came back with. You actually just see one Malcolm, who came in the picture, who played safety here. It feels great to actually come back and be around these guys. Sarah in our days my days was a great experience. I feel like I go back to high school right now if I had the choice. But people, my biggest question that people ask is, the downfall this year, and my numbers dropping, and that's really about it.
And what was your response to that?
I mean, I feel like, it's my injury. Injury is something that you can't control. as much people try to prevent that, you can't control that. So, you know, that was my biggest downfall, you know, that affected my performance. But, you know, I still try to remain a captain, be there for the team, you know, support on the sideline even when I wasn't playing. So, at the end of the day, I feel like I was still there.
And, you know, how did you think that your combine went? You know, there were a lot of mixed reviews, you know, so how did you think that it went?
I think my combine went great.
Okay.
A lot of people, you know, had mixed reviews as far as, you know, some people just felt like I should have ran faster, some people felt I should have ran again, you know, but, you know, my thing to that is, you know, you got to understand it's a difference amongst games and players. You know, I'm not the type of person that can go out there and run against time, run against, you know, something that's not there, you know. And my main focus, if you put a defender out there, then you tell me to run a 40, then you can see how fast I really won, you know. But
from the water cooler, I'm Lauren Jones here with Marquise Lee. Oh, no! Wow.
Water cooler. This is Marquise Lee, and I'm out.
7,000 students drop out every school.